Salatu wassalam ala ashrafil mursaleen. It's a great honor and very humbling to be here with all of my beloveds and many of my teachers. And of course, I'm also happy that in some way, small way, that Shaykh Mahi did not come yet. I remember Shaykh Hassan asking me to, after I'd written the first book, he said, could you say a few words to the people about Shaykh Ahmad Tijani? But sitting in front of my Shaykh, I couldn't say anything. And Ajib was there. He was not here tonight, but the brother of Haji Hassan. He said, Zakary, you wrote a book and you can't say anything? I'm also shy because of my mother is here. Salama, thank you for coming with us from New Hampshire. I was informed by one of the Ikhwan that he was in Medina and he was reciting a prayer to see the Prophet. And among the prayer, it said, Allahumma salli wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad fi mahdi sabiya. Allahumma salli wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad shaban zakiya. Allahumma salli wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad kahlin mardiya. Allahumma salli wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad fil awwaleen. Allahumma salli wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad fil akhirin. Allahumma salli wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad fil malal a'la ila yawm ad-din. And its meaning, after praise and peace on the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, who is in the pure cradle, who is the purified youth, who is the pleasing adult, who is among the first of generations and among the last and among the highest company in the Day of Judgment. And Shaykh Hassan appeared to him in a dream and said, oh, so-and-so, this is after he passed, I have never stopped praying for you. So alhamdulillah, the blessing of these gatherings, we can hear a lot of things about the specialness of this incredible saint's life. But it's the enduring presence that is the thing that remains with us. And I imagine that what was said to this person by Shaykh Hassan after his passing is true for all of us here tonight, that Shaykh Hassan is always praying for us. But it's also, it made me think about the different stages of Shaykh Hassan's life as I'm thinking about this prayer, because it's mentioning the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in his youth, in his cradle, in his youth, etc. And so I was thinking about Shaykh Hassan, what to say about him. And the first thing to think about is, of course, that he is he's the first grandchild he's the son of the first child of Shaykh Ibrahim Niass. Many of you are probably aware that Shaykh Ibrahim, his father is named Abdullah, his first closest disciple is named Ali, his first daughter is named Fatima, his first grandson named Hassan. And of course, his mother was said that she had had many miscarriages before Shaykh Hassan, until Shaykh Ibrahim now invited her, Sayyidah Fatima, to come into his own bedroom to deliver Shaykh Hassan. And indeed, when Shaykh Hassan was a young boy, he would follow his grandfather, Shaykh Ibrahim, to the mosque or to wherever he went. And any place where Shaykh Ibrahim would put his foot, then Shaykh Hassan would also put his foot there. And when he was interviewed many years later, when he would talk about Shaykh Ibrahim, of course, he was in the room when Shaykh Ibrahim passed. And he said, I would never have, of course, felt as much sadness on that day of Shaykh Ibrahim's passing. Mentioning him as a purified youth, when he went to Cairo, or firstly when he went to Mauritania, there was no electricity. He said that he had to walk 6 kilometers to get water. And he used to say about studying in Mauritania, you cannot get access to the honey without getting stung by the bees. He was also a very humble student. It said that when Shaykh Ibrahim came to Cairo to visit, he was selected to be the one who would cook for Shaykh Ibrahim. And when Shaykh Ibrahim came to Cairo, he said, "This food is pretty good. Who is the one that cooked this?" He said, "Well, it's Shaykh Hassan." He said, this is okay, but if I get into the kitchen, I will cook better than you." So he was always humble, servant. But to imagine to be an imam being called home from actually studying at Northwestern, where I'm currently a professor, at only 37 years old, to be the imam of this very, very heavy, very, very special community. Shaykh Tijani Cisse relates that when Shaykh Hassan heard the waratha, the will of Shaykh Ibrahim, read in the mosque, when he passed in 1975, that designated him as the imam, he said, "Now I know I will not live long." He was a pleasing adult, as this prayer is also talking about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It said that when he was in Paris with Shaykh Ibrahim, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to him and told him, "Your students are my students, your beloveds are my beloveds. Don't fear your enemies, but if you are afraid," he gave him a prayer to say. All throughout his life, he remained a servant of his, a servant to the Faida, a servant to the Tariqa, and of course to Islam. I have a brother who is a Christian minister. He met Shaykh Hassan at one time, and Shaykh Hassan told him, when my brother asked, what is your mission? Like, what do you do? And he said, "Well, I stand for the dignity of the human being." And that ended up being, for my brother, that's also sort of the mission that he sees himself involved in. So that sort of resonated with him. In an interview in his own life that was in a newspaper that I came across, he said, "The human being is a gift that Allah himself has created better than any other creation. To invest in humanity, then, is to invest in Allah." And he used to say, "I'm a servant of Islam and the Muslims." You can see he was a servant of humanity, servant of the Muslims, servant of the Tariqa, of Shaykh Ibrahim Niyas. One of the things striking about his positionality is that he was invested with both the highest degrees of classical Islamic scholarship, but also he had a message that corresponded with the vibrancy of the youth. He was given a degree of highest distinction from Azhar, an honorary degree. He was the first president of the Council of African Ulama. But he would also mix with all sorts of people. It said that he met Kool Modi when he first was coming to America. He even visited us once he came to New York, and he said, "Zakary, you've come to visit me many times. Now I'm going to come visit you in New Hampshire." I said, "Shaykh, it's a long drive. It's 5 hours. I don't think you want to go there." He said, No, I'm going to come." So we many of you were here with us that time. But to me, it's a testament that he drove, all the way just to mix with us country folk. And of course, he was extremely interested in helping the people who needed to be helped. He used to remind us to look out for the rights of the oppressed. He said, "Allah will not turn away the prayer of the oppressed." So one should be careful. And among this prayer that we are praying for the Prophet ﷺ, who is in the exalted company until the day of judgment. And indeed, I think this is what I'd like to return to, that the presence of the Shaykh, which can be felt here and is certainly embodied in his inheritors. One of the ways that I think about what this presence means is a poem from the appendix of Kashf al-Bas that I was honored to translate. This was right before Shaykh Hassan passed. He trusted me with finishing this translation. This is a poem by Muhammad bin Sayyid al-Alawi, who was among the Mauritanian sheikhs, who was called the Hassan al-Tariqa, like the best poet of the Tariqa. And he was describing the true presence of the a consummate sheikh. And he said, rich meadows of knowledge they traversed, untouched by the greatest of researchers. At first, they took knowledge from fellow servants, then directly from Allah, Lord of all servants. They have come to witness the real openly with their eyes. So they are elevated with every passing moment. Whenever they desire, they expand on any science at hand with continuous overflowing bounty and spiritual support. Such expansion cannot be contained by the 7 continents, measured out, nor can it be contained in the 7 heavens. Each of their nights is like the night of power, and their days are like festivals of celebration, Eid for Allah. Were they to walk with their full presence on the earth, whole lands would have been destroyed, mountains crushed. So such a presence can never be devoured by earth or time. As Hassan al-Basri is related by Imam al-Ghazali said, the earth does not eat the dwelling place of true faith, but rather it abides as a source for drawing near to God. And by that, he, of course, meant the heart of the true believer, that the earth will not eat it. So we praise Allah for the blessing of those whose presence crushes the mountains of our heart, and passing away from ourselves like Moses, witnessing Allah's manifestation on a mountain turned to dust, allows us to witness the divine being. And this is our true calling. We are not a group of any particular race or political affiliation. We have no collective nationality or tribe. We do not privilege gender, class, or rank. As Shaykh Hassan used to say, the true Sufi is the one who makes prostration, sajda, one time and then never raises his head. And thus destroyed, crushed, we are not above anyone. Only we have been called to witness Allah in the non-existence of ourselves. Recently related to me were the words of Shaykh Ibrahim when asked, sort of testing him, is it true that your disciples say that they are seeing God? He said, my problem is not with my disciple who says he sees God. It is with my disciple who says he sees something other than God. And he said, this was related to me by Shaykh Hassan, if I am given the position of tasarruf, meaning that what I say is, that Allah accepts all of my prayers, that I have kun fayakun. If I am given that position, I would only ask to clean the heart of each one of my disciples, and we know he is given that position for sure. I, along with many of you in the audience, was blessed to know Shaykh Hassan and to love him and to witness some of the numerous miracles that Allah manifested at his hand. You notice I didn't mention any of them tonight, because after these 16 years since his passing, what remains with me the most clearly is the memory of his presence which continues to throw the rememberer into the ocean of God's oneness. And in the recollection and continued company with the expanded ones, may Allah make us among the sincere aspirants who see nothing other than God. Assalamu alaikum.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you, Zakary. Wright. Alhamdulillah. Good. Every year we honor esteemed women and men who kept Shaykh Hassan's legacy alive. The first person we want to honor tonight, don't go too far, is Dr. Zakary Wright. Dr. Zakary Wright is the recipient of the Guardians of the Faith Award. We congratulate and thank Dr. Wright for his immense intellectual contribution.